This is an issue that is going to pop up its head, and for Michigan fans, its ugly head, each and every year about this time for the foreseeable future.
And it should be. And you just have to be able to embrace it, because when you have a guy like Jim Harbaugh that's leading your program, he is desired. People want him to run their program, whether it's another college program, whether it's an NFL franchise. He's a name that's hot, and people want to be a part of it because you see the publicity that he has brought to Michigan. Take away the stuff that the success they've had on the field. When he walked in the door, everyone talked about Michigan. So the entire off seasons for the last two, whether it's satellite camps or the fact that he's here, people are continuing to talk about Michigan. And franchises like the Rams would love to bring a guy in that can create that type of buzz.
And that's the question I keep getting. Why don't the Rams? Why wouldn't they want Jim Harbaugh? Of course they want Jim Harbaugh, but this has to be some mutual love, and Harbaugh doesn't have it. This, a quote from the Michigan head man, and it's saying it as clearly as you can possibly say it. I'm not leaving Michigan, not even considering it. A lot of this talk is coming from our enemies, from coaches. You know the names. Now, this is classic Harbaugh. You probably know the names of the top three I'm referring to. They like to say that to the media. They like to tell that to the recruits, to their families, try to manipulate them into going to some other school besides Michigan. We know them as jive turkeys. Say it like it is. That's the way it is. Oh, Jim Harbaugh. Quoting Trading Places, I believe.
What is he doing there?
I agree with him that programs and coaches use everything, not just this, everything is negative recruiting.
Absolutely.
I'm not so sure I'm buying into the fact that the three names, and you know what they are, I don't have to name them here on the show, I'm not so sure they're the ones that started this rumor of him going to the Rams, as suggested by that quote.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, he realizes that he's going to be negative recruited against, with all the big programs that have elite guys that are running the programs. There's always going to be something, whether it's retirement, whether it's taking the quote-unquote dream job. Maybe it's someplace that he played before, and now all of a sudden they want to resurrect that program. That's just something he's going to have to deal with, and he knows that. But I think, again, you say, hey, the three names, they're out there. You know the names. It just continues to add a little fuel to the fire, and that's really what recruiting is. And he's going to get down, and I'm not going to say down and dirty, but I just did. But he's going to be there ready to recruit. And they're going to do any and everything they can because they're fighting for a top class.
And they're not having any trouble right now on the recruiting trail. That being said, it is intriguing because a friend of mine asked me, can you really negative recruit when you're stating things that people know are not necessarily true? And I laughed. I said, the negative recruitment becomes negative recruitment basically exactly because of that. The things that aren't necessarily true are the things that are heard more often than the things that are factual.
Rick, I hate to bring this back to a little trivial game that DiNardo and I used to play for this thing called the belt. DiNardo will tell anyone and everyone that will listen to him that he's won the belt for 9 straight years.
And what's the truth?
The truth is he's only won it maybe 2 years. We haven't even had the contest that long, but the fact that he continues to say it over and over and over again, you start to get people to believe it. This is the same thing when it comes to recruiting. Listen, guys, I'm giving you the inside scoop. You're not going to hear this anywhere else, but he is definitely looking at this Rams job. That's what's going to go on. It's part of the business.
And the most recent political landscape has proven to us that it doesn't matter how fake the news is. If you put it out there often enough, there is a percentage of people that are going to believe it. As for the recruiting, now this from Michigan lineman Eric Magnuson, and this is a really telling quote. He says it really does hurt recruiting if they're saying Jim Harbaugh is going to go to the NFL. Some recruits could think there's instability in the coaching job at Michigan, so that could hurt him. So a lot of it is credited, or is created, I should say, for distraction in that aspect as far as recruiting. I couldn't see him going anywhere. This is where he wants to be. We just touched on the negative recruiting aspect of it, but listen. I think that Jim Harbaugh is already selling a different bill of goods than most coaches are selling. Yes, you have the program, a blue blood program, like in Ohio State, a Penn State, and Alabama, but you have a coach who is unique in a lot of different ways, whether it's climbing trees or drinking milk or having sleepovers or whatever you want to point out. This is not a guy that does things by sticking to the norm, and so I think this is going to hurt him less than it may hurt another coach.
Well, I think one of the things that you continue to think about, particularly if you have, if you're a senior or a junior in high school and you're starting to look at programs, you know, they want to look at programs where they at least believe that it's got a chance to be coached by the same guy that's sitting in their living room. as hard as that is to believe in today's landscape of college football, the coachings are changing so much. But you want to play for a guy. If you committed to Michigan, you want to be able to see that commitment out. You want to see him when you it's senior day, you come running out of the tunnel, he shakes your hands, you take the great picture with your mom, dad, family members, whoever it may be, and you want Jim Harbaugh to be there in that picture. So from that respect, it does hurt because there is that unsurety of whether or not he's going to be there. But again, he's got great recruiters, including himself, on that staff. So they can really turn that around. If they get to a kid that they really want, they can spend the time to explain and lay out to that kid, here are the facts of what's going on.
And lastly, I just want to point out the money factor because it's not a factor. Money didn't drive him to Michigan. It's not going to drive him out. I think the latest public release said around $9 million all in for Harbaugh this year. What's that equivalent to in L.A.? Like 35 mil between Ann Arbor and L.A.? Have you ever looked for real estate out in California?
Well, the only deal there is Stan Kroenke. Money's not an issue to him
I understand
either.
money's not an issue.
I think quality,
he does have some ties.
Yeah, quality of life in Ann Arbor for the Harbaughs, I think is perfect for them right where they are right now. And I really don't envision them leaving. And money's not going to be the driving reason that he ultimately would leave Michigan. I don't think he's came there on a mission, and he wants to see it through. He wants to win a championship.
And I believe if he were going to leave for an NFL program, for an NFL franchise, it is not this franchise.
It ain't going to be a
this
rebuilding
moment.
deal.
No, I completely agree with you.